I know that both Douglas and I are going to be talking a little bit about, hope and disillusionment. That's squabbling couple. And in my case, it's interesting to see what stuff feels a little dated and what stuff doesn't. Understanding comics, if I'm a one-hit wonder, that was definitely the hit. And understanding is definitely the thing that most survives for me. There's some other stuff that I've liked over the years, but that's the one thing I continue to like. And one of the reasons is because it's reasonably timeless, because I openly and deliberately avoided any linkage to any specific technology, any specific medium. And it's funny, if you go back and read Understanding Comics, I never mentioned computers once. And almost as soon as the ink was dry, I was down the rabbit hole for the next 10, 15 years. Its follow-up, Reinventing Comics, where I explicitly talk about comics and digital media, I think is the book where even though parts of it are still pointing to a potential future, it also suffers a lot for having been very of its time. I think probably at my best when I'm dealing with principles that are they're just out in the Oort cloud, They're just this idea, you mentioned this notion of chaos and order, and the idea that we're transitioning into a world that's much more about these emergent patterns of this crazy mass of behavioral, organic, really just it's an aesthetic butterfly effect or whatever. But one of the things for me is that, in a way, I do actually belong to the linear crowd. My dad was an engineer, and what happens with me is that I look at the noise and the rumble of all these things going on, and it like sets off these flashes that are illuminating there's some kind of shape in the sky of some universal principle, and that's what I keep looking up and seeing, is there any eternal principle that's actually going to apply? Principles only, not outcomes, right. Not steady states. There are no steady states, but there are steady principles. And I think that's what I was looking for in Understanding Comics, was trying to find what principles can apply across the board. And they still kind of work. They still matter, because I stated right up front, this has nothing to do with paper. This has nothing to do with companies. This has nothing to do with characters. This has nothing to do with all the things that were 99% of what everybody had written about previously. This is just boiling comics down to its essence. But, of course, I got in trouble for that, because there are many people who feel that boiling anything down to its essence, and eventually you boil everything away. There's nothing left. There is no essence. And which I don't actually necessarily disagree with. Chip Delaney talks about the futility of definitions. I try to define comics. What is comics? And there are many people who feel this is just a foolish thing to even try, because you'll never define them perfectly. Delaney talks about the notion of a functional description. But I think, at the very least, I think the exercise is worth it. And also, you can never take away one definition and replace it with another. All you can do is add, and you just okay, this is definition number 4, after the funny animals and the juvenile delinquency and the stapled superheroes.